Cloud. All right, so we are recording. So now we're going to talk about attendance. So attendance is an entity specific module, meaning that you could have a attendance code or reason different from entity to entity. They don't have to be district wide. So I think honestly, Longview, you guys have them district wide. Most of our districts do, but just know that there can be some differences between entities. So attendance, the module itself is found in Office. And then under attendance, AT, we have entry by date, entry by student, entry by class or activity, history on attendance, transaction tracking, reports. We're not going to talk about attendance letters today, but we will talk about device entry of the simulated scan sheets. So, but I first want to talk about a little bit about the codes. So attendance codes and reasons are found under setup. So I'm going to hit the setup and I'm going to go into codes. And so on that screen, which you can see the path up here. We just talked about path, web student, office, attendance. Now, product setup and setup, they use PS, but it's actually, when you're looking at it, it's setup and then codes. So that's the path up top. So we have our types and we have our reasons. And I just want to kind of take a quick look at these so you guys would understand what we're putting in and what means what. So here are absent type codes. This particular database has these codes. Yours could look very different for Longview School District, depending on how you guys have it set up. The code is just one letter. So this one happens to be a C, and it's for remote learning tardy. The category is other, meaning that not reporting to the state. The only categories that report to the state are excused or unexcused. So depending on how you have your types categorized, depending on if they're reporting to the state. Counting them in truancy. Those are always unexcused absences. So we just have two down here that are counting in truancy. Discipline action is just set up as attendance. Include in total attendance. So what this is referring to is when you're running some attendance reports in Skyward, if you are telling it to include it, then it's going to count those absences. If you're telling it not to include it, it's not going to count in the totals for that student. And then if you were using positive attendance and wanting it to override. So again, these are entity specific, but I just wanted to kind of point that out so you knew exactly what it was you were attaching to a student. I'm going to back out of here. And again, with the reasons, we're going to go look at that real quick because if you guys are allowing families to put in attendance through their family access, if the student's going to be absent or not, then there's some that you can allow the parents to add and some that you can't. And that's our family access here. So the reason codes are too long. So you have two uh, spaces that you can use for the reason code. You have your short description, your long description, and then if you're going to allow that to be seen, or not to be seen, but to be used on family access. So then now we have that on yes or no's. So down here, I can see I have I wanted to point this out here. I forgot I should have done that on the browse screen, but I have this set at 20, and then I have this set at 20. That tells me there might be some more records under there. So if I can either drop that to 50, or I can use my arrow and go to the next ones. And I see I do have 22. Okay. So there was a couple more down there that I wasn't seeing. So, and these are year specific too. So one year it could be one thing, the next year it could be something different. Although most of our districts do clone those over, but then they might go in and clean them up and use some different ones from year to year. All right, so I just kind of wanted to point out those types and reasons before we get started. But we're going to come in here to Office, and we're going to go into Entry by Date. So in our Entry by Date, we have a couple of filters we can use, all attendance or just today's attendance. So all attendance is giving us that, just all this year's attendance. If I want to look at just today's attendance, then I would put my filter at today's attendance, and you can see I don't have anything entered for today. So this is where I would start taking attendance. If I had any prearranged absences or something like that, I might see that on this screen here. So in the lower right-hand corner, I can pick a different date. So if I wanted to go maybe look at, let's say the 10th, if I go 11, 10, 2020, I don't remember what day I was in here doing attendance stuff. Then I could go see all the attendance that was kept on that date. And I didn't have anything in there. So just know you can search by that. So over on the right, we would have enter attendance, which we're going to do in just a minute. I just want to talk about these other buttons. If we had some attendance on here, we could edit it. We could also delete it from here. If you were using a positive attendance, it gives you a log. It tells you what's going on with that. Totals, attendance totals, if there were any notes. And remember your little note secret here where you have to, there was a, oh, I don't have, I don't have a student up here. Okay, so I guess I can't get to it when I don't have a student up here, but I wanted to remind you about your filter and setting it back to 0101-1900 because it does reset itself every year. User entry defaults and your user entry ranges are here. We're going to talk about in those just a minute, but I want to point out the parent entered request. So this is if you're allowing your parents to put in an absent request from Family Access, you would you might get a notification up here that says you have some, then you have to come in here and actually click on it, and then you can process those requests. Okay, our user entry defaults. So these are some default settings that you can set up and choose to use if you want to. You don't have to set them up, and if you do set them up, you don't have to use them. But once you have them set up, then you can use those on a variety of screens when you're entering attendance. So the first thing you would want to do is enable it. So I would need to check the box to use these defaults, and then it sensitizes everything down here. So where you might use this, and um, it would be if you had, let's say, a sheet of tardies in front of you. These students are all tardies, and you just want to go in and quickly say tardy, tardy, tardy without having to put in tardy from first period to first period with a T for tardy. So you would set up your default for, let's say, tardy. So that's what the example I'm going to get you, but you can use this for a variety of things. Only existing periods within the range or all attendance periods. I'm going to go ahead and set my periods down here, so I'm going to leave those wide open. Now you have a couple of options on your ad. So if you wanted to initialize ad records using these default parameters automatically without having to even push the default button, then you would set this up. You would check that, and then as soon as you bring a student's name up, it's going to give them a tardy. Then put in another student's name, going to give them a tardy. So that's what that's for. The initialize ad records using the last entry, when you would use that with your defaults, is say you were putting in a bunch of attendance for yesterday. And because entry by date automatically comes in with today's date, if you set that up to use your last entry and the very first time you come in, you put in yesterday's date, you hit your defaults, save and add another, and then it automatically picks yesterday's date, and you can continue to go with that last entry. So that's what that is referring to. Otherwise, it's going to always want to default back to today's date. On the screen, do you want to display the confidential phone number? Do you want a message that attendance was updated? You have to click OK to get out of it, but totally up to you. Okay, so my example is we're doing a tardy, T for tardy, and the reason is, I don't know, I guess I'm going to have, I'm going to just pick something here because I didn't actually get in and prearrange something. But if you had, tardy, miss the bus, or whatever you want it to be. And just because you add this here in your defaults doesn't mean it has to be applied to every student. You can always make changes on each one of the screens. So in my example, I'm just saying first period. And parent notified, yes or no, depending on how you use that. And then if you wanted to comment in that area, you can add that as well. So let's say I'm just going to set it up for tardy and say they were miss a bus or ill. I'm just using that as an example. And I say save. So now my defaults are set up and I can use them. I don't have to use them, but I know that they're there. And they also have my user entry ranges. So if I click on that, and ranges, I can narrow things down in my ranges. So I could look at just third graders or just fourth graders, but I am going to go ahead and just keep it at current year active. That way, when I'm looking at students, I'm not having to look at inactive students. And I'm going to say save. All right, so I'm going to enter attendance. So I'm pretending right now that I have a sheet in front of me of some tardy names. So I'm just going to start punching in some letters here. And Darwin. And Darwin pops up. And because I have my default set up, here's my default button. So if I was just putting in tardies, I hit my defaults. It automatically fills all that in for me. I can add something else if I want to. And then I can say save and add another. Bring up my student. Hit my defaults. So you can see that if you have your defaults set up, then you can quickly get through quite a bit of attendance. I'm going to say save and add another. I'm going to bring in another student. And I can use my defaults or not, but here, let's just say I'm putting in an excused absence. So then I can start that process. So here on my periods to fill, I happen to be in an elementary school, and I know I only have 3 periods because I see them down here. If I was at a middle school or high school, I would probably see quite a few more periods here. So I'm going to say all day. So periods 1, I'm going to use my tab key. Period 3, I'm going to tab over. If I know that I'm going to use an E for excused, then I can put that in. But if I didn't know my types, I can click on the hyperlink. I can go in and grab my absent excused, just highlight it and hit select, tab over, then my reason. If I don't know that what the reason is for home ill or parent called in or whatever it is you want to put down, I'm going to put in parent excused. I'm going to highlight that and say select. And then it went right to my comment area, but you can see now it's filled in all 3 periods for me with excused, parent excused, and I'm going to say mom called in and Max is ill. Okay, parent notified me, or did I notify the parent? Either way, I'm going to put the parent notified. So if I wanted to see all current attendance for Max at this point, I could check that box. It would show me if he had anything so far. So I think it automatically comes in unchecked. So if you want to see current year attendance for the student on your screen, you'll need to check that box just the one time, and then the next time it'll stay. And then I can say save and back or save and add another. I'm going to say save and add another. So I'm going to bring in one more student. Let's see, Barney. All right, so here's Barney. So on this screen as well, we have our I information. So let's say that Barney's mom wanted me to send homework home for Barney. So from my little I information here, like we saw over in student profile, it's also here an entry by date and entry by student. Then I can email all the teachers from here, and you can go through that process as well. So that's a really nice feature right here on this screen. So while you're taking attendance, so you don't forget, you can do it from here. So also you have your defaults here. You can print a hall pass for a student. I don't know too many districts that use this hall pass piece, only because it prints out on your printer, which is 8.5 by 11. And most people aren't, wasting paper unless they have that little tiny printer right next to their screen. But you could have a hall pass. I'm going to bring that up though, so you can see the 2 different options here. So you have your hall pass, and again, it's a standard paper unless you have receipt paper next to your desk or something. But you do have an appointment pass. So maybe if this student was going to be leaving campus or something like that, you might want to use the appointment pass, and it's off campus, and who's the appointment with, save and print or preview or whatever. So it might be that you use a hall pass for something like that, but again, I don't know too many districts that use that feature, but it's there if you want it. And then again, you have your notes. So if you come in here to your notes, come into your filter options, and again, that resets every year. So make sure that you come in and reset that if you want to see prior year notes. All right, so here's my student, Barney. Let's take some attendance. Let's say he's one of my tardy kids. So I'm going to hit my defaults, fills in with those defaults that I have. But let's say that I want to put something else in the common area. I can highlight down there and I can say, you know, um, in cafe having breakfast. That happens a lot, doesn't it? Where they need to have their breakfast first. So I put that down and then I can say save and back. So once I say save and back, it's going to bring me out to my entry by date screen. And since I have my screen set on today's attendance, I can see what, all my handiwork, everything I've put in so far. That's why I would have my filter of today's attendance so I can make sure, double check that with what I have in front of me, make sure I have everything in there. So these are the 4 students I put in. You can see the comment area anywhere that it's turquoise. That means that there is a comment. You hover over it, it's going to give you the comment. Hover over, it's going to tell you, oh, he's in having breakfast, what have you. So you can, of course, highlight a record and delete and edit from here. So that is our entry by date. And if that's something you do all the time and every day, you definitely want to make that a favorite. Okay, so I'm going to leave my default set up just so you guys can see what that looks like on our next screen. So do I have any questions on entry by date? I'm going to open up one of these so you can see there's a little information in there, not much. No questions, Tammy?
Questions? Nope. Nope.
Nope. Okay, so that's our entry by date. So now we're going to go into entry by student. So I'm going to go into Office, under Attendance, entry by student. That's my BS screen. All right, so here we got 2 different views we can have, student details or just attendance, so however you want to look at this screen. Right now I'm looking at all students, so I can see a bunch of inactive students in there. I really want to just look at active students. So I'm going to change my filter to active students. And again, just like when we were earlier this morning, we were talking about student browse. I could create a filter and just look at my 3rd graders or just my 4th graders. So that's available here on this browse screen as well. So over here on the right, we have a quick print. So that is where you could go and run a report for the student that you have highlighted on here. So if I hit quick print, then I could, what kind of report do I want? A day summary or an attendance detail or summary? And then I can run the report. I actually want to show this to you guys when we get over to student profile. I'm going to jump over there in a minute so you can see what that looks like, and we can create this as a favorite. I'm going to go ahead and create it a favorite on here, but it looks a little bit differently when we're in student profile. So if I came in and hit my attendance detail or summary, I created a template in here already for 2021. If you didn't have one in here, you would want to go and create the template, and we'll do that when we do reports here in a little bit. And then I'm going to say make favorite. And I'm just going to leave it named that, but you could change the name if you want and hit save. And so now when I'm in here and I come in and I highlight a student and hit quick print, it's my favorite. And I don't have to toggle between these two or pick a template. I can just hit it from there. So I'm going to go ahead and back out, but I do want to show you what that looks like in student profile when we're done here on this screen. So what that looks like. Okay, and then we have edit. So any record you have highlighted, you would be able to edit that information. Add attendance for whoever you have highlighted. Again, positive attendance log. If there were any letters against that student. So if I came in here, let's say I highlighted Moni, and I hit letters, I do believe it defaults into class, the type of class right here. And you guys, I know Longview School District, you run total letters. So you would want to make sure that you set your type to total. And once you do that the first time when you're in your student profile area or in here, it'll stay there for you. So it'll automatically come into your total. So then you would come in, if you saw a letter here, you could view it and then print it off or what have you. So that's your letters. And the letters are for your district, you have your BECA letters for unexcused absences, and I think you also have some for, especially at elementary school, for 10 or more. So those would be letters for that. So that's where you would see that. Totals for attendance totals, any notes. If they were suspended or expelled, you would see that here. Here's our user entry defaults. So from this screen, we could come into our defaults, make changes to this if we wanted to, or reset it back or what have you. We can do that from here. And then parent entered requests. So again, if the parents put in any requests through family access, I would come in here and I could process those from here. And then there's the hall pass. So from this screen, let's say I want to add attendance for student, I don't have any students here in front of me, but I'm going to pick K's just to kind of get to the middle here. So let's say I'm going to go add some attendance for Merlin. So I'd look up Merlin so I can either put my cursor down here and go by the alphabet like I just did. I could put in their name key, whatever I need to put in. So let's say Merlin's my student. I'm going to highlight that and hit add attendance. And now, instead of it coming into the date field, it does come into today's date, but it comes in, it gives me my student up top. So then I'm going to say, okay, student Merlin, I'm going to put in periods just 1 to 1, and I'm going to say that um, he's excused because he has, let's say, a doctor's appointment. So I'm not sure if there's doctor's appointment in here, so I'm going to hit that. Okay, I'm just going to say excuse. I don't see oh, right here, medical appointment. I'm going to say save. So now it filled it out for me, just period 1. He's got a medical appointment and will be in by 10 a.m. Let's just say. Parent notified me. Show all current year attendance. If there was any for this student, I would see it down here. And now I already set that over in my entry by date, but I hadn't set it for entry by student, so it should be good to go. Here on this screen, we have our information, so you get more information about this student. And then we can also see that this student does have an indicator. So if I hover over that, I don't remember what a 2 is, then I can see that, oh, this student is bilingual. So I have that here on this screen as well. So here for Merlin, I'm entered by student. So if I say save and add another, then what it does is it brings up, I'm still on Merlin. So it's saying save and add another for Merlin, but I can certainly come in now and go get another student. So if I know the student's last name, of course, you can start typing it in. Let's say it's Walton. And let's say that Walton is just tardy, and I have my defaults set up for tardy. I know that, so I'm going to hit defaults, fills it all in for me. I'm going to say save and add another. It's still on Walter, but now I have another student. I can't remember that student's last name, but I have a note here in front of me for Wendy or something. So I'm going to hit the word student. That's going to be my little hyperlink. And then I can come out here and do my student search, just like we did over in student profile. So here on my, let's say the first name begins with, what did I say, Wendy? I'm going to go W-E, because that's, I may not have a Wendy in here. I probably should pick something more common, shouldn't I? How about Heather? Hopefully we'll have a Heather in Entity 121. And I say Heather, and I say she is active, and I say search. No Heather. Okay, darn it. Okay, let's pick another one. Let's go with John again. And search. There we go. Okay, whew, got a few Johns. So again, you can do your student search. Then you can, let's say it's Johnny right here. We select him. That brings up Johnny, and then we can start adding attendance for Johnny. So let's say this is all day. 3, excused, excused. You could put a comment if you want to, and then say save and back. All right, so that is our entry by student. And again, if I'm the attendance person, that's going to be a favorite of mine. I can tell you right now. So I'm going to hit that. All right, so before I jump over to student profile and do a little attendance over there, which it really does look like entry by student, but I wanted to point out a couple of things over there. Do I have any questions?
Nope. Nope. Nope.
Nope, nope. Okay. All
Nope.
right.
Nope. Nope.
Nope, nope. Okay. So I'm going to go over to students, and under student profile, I'm going to select that, and I'm going to navigate to the attendance tab, which is right here. All right. So here for Tasha, I can see all attendance, or I can just see current year only. So I can see her attendance for her whole history at my school, or I can just look at current year. So depending on what filter you pick, that's what you get to see. So, oh, well, darn it. Did I already do that? Okay, you guys close your eyes for a minute. Close your eyes. I'm going to take this away. Delete it. Must have been playing around with it. Didn't realize I saved it. All right, so I'm going to say back. Okay, so here on this student, I have my quick print. And if I click that, now let's say I want to create an attendance detail or summary that I have in the system. So no matter what student I'm on in my student profile on attendance, I can get a report for the whole year. So a lot of times a administrator or a truancy person or somebody might come to you and say, hey, can I get an attendance report on Tasha for this year? I want to see, what's going on. So instead of having to come into quick print, hit a report of attendance detail or summary, make sure you have the right template. I'm going to create a quick little button right here on this screen. And you can create these quick prints several areas over in student profile. You can do it for scheduling. You can do it on the general profile tab for an address label. So there's a couple different great areas that you can create buttons for. So I already created a template called 2021 Attendance Report. Otherwise, you could go into template and create one. We'll talk about attendance report templates in a little bit. So I created that. And then I'm just going to simply say make favorite. And I'm going to save it. And I'm going to back out. So now I have a button on here that no matter what student I'm on, I can come in and I can run an attendance report for them. So the nice thing about creating this button and is the convenience of it, but I would also suggest you put the school year on here because because attendance is entity and school year specific. It may not pick up your newest dates, so you're calling it. It might be the 1920 or the 1819 school year. So it's a good idea to keep the year on there so you know if you have the correct template. So just a little side note there. And so if I was going to, let's say, add attendance here for Leon, I can see that I do have my defaults set up. So here I could go ahead and put those defaults in. But back here on this screen, I'm going to not save this. Back here on this screen, I can't change my defaults from here. So that just know that if you set up your defaults, you can use them while you're in student profile and attendance, but you can't make any changes to it. You have to do that through the Office module, either by entry by date or entry by student. Okay. All right. So on entry by, I'm sorry, on your attendance profile screen, current year only, you have pretty much the same buttons as you guys saw over on when we were in office and entry by student. You've got your notes, your letters, your history, positive attendance. So all of those same buttons are available over here. All right. Any questions on taking attendance um, through this area?
Nope.
No questions? Okay, so do you want to take a few minutes to kind of enter attendance, or you feel pretty comfortable that if you were to sub and you needed to go in and take attendance, you'd be able to do it?
Yep.
Yep. You're pretty much good to go?
I've done it a few times already. So.
Oh, okay, good. Excellent. All right. All right, so then let's go back over to the office module and we'll go into entry by class or activity. So it automatically comes in to today's date. I'm going to go ahead and, in this example, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to put in a class trip. So I have my radio button for class. Of course, I only want enrolled students. So if I know my class code, I can go ahead and punch it in here, or I can hit the hyperlink and I can go in and I can grab, let's say it's going to be my second grade class right here of E. Brewsker. So once I highlight that and select it, excuse me, then any student who is enrolled in that class is going to show up down here on the bottom for me. So in my example, let's say that this particular class, third period, we're going to go to the park in the afternoon. So rewards park trip. So we're going to go into our type and we're going to say other. Now, if you had one set up for field trip or whatever, then you could do that. I don't want this to count against them, but I also want it to be recorded in Skyward so I know that they are out of the building. So that's why you would go ahead and take attendance for even the little trips where you're going to leave campus. It's a great idea to have that in case of an emergency. And the reason, I don't know if there's school related. Ooh, not suspended. Let me go see if there's a school related. I'm going to go in here, see what would apply for me here. Lack of tools? No, no. Well, I don't really see anything that's all that great. I guess I'm just going to go with excused. For some reason, I think I've seen where it's like school related or, something to that effect. So here, what's that?
Yeah, like field trip and stuff's in there.
Yeah,
in Mountain View.
exactly. Right. Yeah. So it's a little bit different in here. So parent notified, you bet. So in the comment area, I'm going to be putting that there, park trip. Oops, spell it right. And then my example is just third period. So instead of all periods, I have to say a range of periods and select that and say third to third. So 3 in my low and 3 in my high. And do I want to override existing attendance? In this particular case, I do not, because if the student's already absent for some reason or suspended for some reason, I don't want to override it that he's taken a trip to the park. So I'm not going to check that box. Coming down here, it's showing me all the students that are in this class. But let's say that Brian's not going to be able to go. He wasn't feeling good. He's in the health room, so he's going to stay back with the health aide. So I'm going to uncheck that box, and then it's going to actually put in attendance for all the students that are selected, so everybody but Brian. So once I have this all filled out the way I love it, I'm going to say update attendance for all those selected students. And here, now it's updated the attendance for all these students. That sure beats going in one at a time, that's for sure. And then if you hover over the comment area, then it has that comment there. Okay. Any questions on taking attendance by class? So just know that you can do that also by activity. And I don't think in this elementary school I have any activities set up, but if I did, I could go to activity. Where you would probably use this most is in your middle school or your high school. And when we get to go do our activities like football and basketball and baseball at other schools and we get to go do that, then you'll want to take attendance for that and do that by activity. And then also field trip. If you set up any field trips in the activity module, then you can take a attendance by that field trip. Right. And if this is an area you use all the time, absolutely, you can make it a favorite. All right. Any questions on taking attendance by class or activity?
Nope, nope.
Nope, nope. Okay. So I'm going to go into Office and I'm going to go down to activities. I just want to briefly touch on that field trip master. So even though that's an activity training, I just wanted to kind of point that out because it is something that you can set up ahead of time, a field trip saying all the first graders are going to go to the zoo or something like that. So if you use that area of Skyward, you can set it up here. You can put in the return times and the who's going to go, if there's chaperones. So, and then you can add all the students that are going to be there. So it might not just be one class, it might be 6 classes. So then you would add them all to the field trip and be able to take attendance for them all at one time. So just know that that's available in Skyward if you have security to it. Okay, back over to attendance. So we're going to go, we've already touched on entry by date, entry by student, class or activity, and now the next one down is history. So that is exactly what it is it's attendance history. Waiting for it to load. Okay, so here my student details is a view I have, and then I have it set up to all students, and maybe I just want to look at active students. And honestly, you guys, we are just looking at history here. So if you needed to come in and look at Trinity's history, you would highlight her name, you would expand the record on the left, and then you could see her attendance history. If we open that up, we can see it all. This is a kindergartner, so I'm only seeing this year's. If this was a third grader, then I would see history for all the years. So just a quick look at history, students' history on attendance. So the next one down is transaction tracking. And this is the one where you get to be a detective. So it's kind of a fun one to go in and look at. So you might come into either attendance by date or transaction effective date. Those are normally the same, or by student. So if I go ahead and come into attendance by date, and I look at, let's see, where's today's date? Let me see, let me open this up a little bit more. I have attendance transactions, and then I have all attendance transactions, or just current year. Let's just look at current year. It's a little easier to look at. Hopefully it'll load up here. What I wanted to show you is that you can go ahead, you can track in here what time you took attendance, on what day, and who took the attendance. So that's kind of a nice feature to be able to do. Now, did you guys just see what I did there? I wanted to see if it'd work. Okay, so in my lower right-hand corner, because I wanted to look at today's date, I simply put a T in there and I hit enter. In a lot of places in the system where you have a date field, you can put in T for today, you can put a Y in for yesterday, or an R for tomorrow. So just know that that's what the date feature does. All right, so here's all the attendance that was put in today. So if I expand out this one here for Maybell, I can see that she didn't have any attendance, and then it was changed to an O other excused by this sub 2 person. Somebody's busy over there, sub number 1 and sub number 2. So you can see all the handiwork. So where this might come into play is you can see maybe what time the teacher put in the attendance, what time it was changed by the office, because so many times you guys have it set up to where you have school messenger, then they're calling home on unexcused absences. And the parent might say, "Hey, I sent my child. She was late, but why did I get the phone call?" Well, you could come in here and see that it wasn't changed until 11:30, and those phone calls went out at 10:30. So you'll have to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. It was scooped up, not on time," or whatever you want to say. But it's just nice to have this little record there for you to check on things. So just know that once you expand the record, you can look further. All right. Any questions on transaction tracking?
Nope, nope.
Nope, nope, nope. Okay. So if we're going to go into Office, and before we come down to reports, because I want to go over a few reports here, I want to talk about this device entry and simulated scans. So if I hit simulated scans, it's going to open up and automatically comes into the action of key entry of sheets. And what these simulated scan sheets are um, by, let me see, how do I explain this? I'm going to make sure I'm saying this right. So these are actually um, a roster, basically, that you would maybe give a substitute before they're going to sub for a teacher. So they may not be getting on and taking attendance on the computer, but you give them this and they can take attendance on this piece of paper, sends it back down to you at the office, and then you key in the attendance. So that's what the simulated scans are for. And these are usually run for weeks at a time. So that's why you're seeing all these different weeks in here. So you would, if there was already a week ran and you needed to get that sheet, so you could highlight it and say create or print the existing batch I have highlighted, or reprint this sheet, then you would highlight those two. Or you could create a brand new batch. If you were going to create one for the next week, then you would choose that, create it, say OK. You can also delete a batch from here. So let's say that, because I think I already created one for this week, I'm going to go to my print queue so I can get a few um, sheets off of here. I can show you guys what this looks like. So in my print queue, when I created this, I created this tag file. I'm going to say view. And so this is what the scan sheets look like. So this is for the kindergartner teacher. This is the teacher. I would give this to the sub, and they would mark off, this student and this student and this student. So let's say um, that I got this back from them, and student number 157 were absent. So then I have to go put in attendance for 1, 5, and 7. So instead of having to go to 3 different students, I can do it right from here. So when you come in to key in your sheets, you would put in the document number right here. So I'm going to go ahead and scoot this over to my other screen so I can show you guys what this looks like. I'm going to back out of here. All right, so I have, this is the week I'm working on. Key entry of sheets is the one I have chosen as my action, and I'm going to say OK. And then it's going to give me that sheet, and it landed on document number 0248. Well, that happens to be my document number, so 00248. Hit enter. So once you do and you put in the date, then it brings up that teacher, and then we are going to take attendance for those 3 students at one time. So let me make this a little bigger for you so I can show you. So down here, you can put in the type. I'm going to say unexcused because I don't know if this is used or unexcused. I might even put in a W for a web absence, which we know is unexcused, but that's by the teacher. So depending on how your building wants to track it, either a U or a W is unexcused. You don't have to give a reason. That's not required. And then I have the student number to add attendance to. So here are all of my students. So I think in my example, I said student number 1, enter. Student number 5, enter. Student number 10, enter. I don't remember what I said. But as you can see, now I'm putting in attendance for those 3 students very quickly. So if I hover down over here, are entering the student number. That's what I just did. 77 to change the date, and it'll automatically put my cursor up there to another date. Um, 99 to save and exit. Oh, wait. 77 to change the date. I'm sorry. 88 to change the document number, and 99 to save and exit. So I'm going to put in 88 and hit enter. It's going to take me to my document number, and then I can go put in my next document number. Let's say I had a couple of subs in the building, and this one was 00251, enter. And now it brings up that class for me. So then I can start the process of these are kids are absent, student number 2, student number 10, and so on. And I can put that in. Do I have any questions on this before I save and close? It's pretty slick and easy when you get used to working them. Tammy, do you guys use SimScan sheets a lot, or do you allow most of your subs to get in and take attendance?
We allow most of them to get in and take attendance.
Okay.
But you don't have to.
So you don't really use the SimScan sheets too often?
Not too often.
Okay.
Pretty cool though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works pretty well. So, okay, I'm going to say save and close. And I'm going to say okay. Close that over here. All right. Let me back out of here. Close without saving. Back, I guess I had a couple screens open there, didn't I? Okay. So under Office, now we're going to go look at some reports. So there's a lot of reports in here, you guys. So let's say, ooh, this is something I forgot to talk about earlier today. So let's say I'm working on entry by date, and I have that screen open. But you know what? I really want to be able to have my report screen open at the same time. So I can either create a new window here and go and navigate to that, or I can go into Office, Attendance, Reports, and enter that new window, and it's going to open a window for me over in the Reports area. So that's kind of a nice feature to have them both open at the same time. We talked about new window, but I didn't talk about the fact that you can actually navigate right to where you want to go and hit the new window from that part of the system. All right, so in here, under our daily reports, we have a day summary, period detail, admin slips, do not admit, unrecorded class attendance, recorded class attendance. We're going to talk about a couple of those in a minute. The attendance or monthly quarterly report, we'll look at that one as well. And that's a report of excused and unexcused. And it gives you some percentages. So that's a nice one to take a look at. Attendance detail or summary, that's the one where I set up for the entire school year so I could create my quick print template. And then there's some more down here. I mean, again, there's a lot of reports just depending on what kind of information you want is how you would run some reports. And we're not going to go through all of them today, but if you have something in mind that you want to see, we can definitely create it or figure out which report would work for that. So the day summary is one that you would run every day. And most of our buildings do. They have these set up as a task, and I want to show you how to do that as well. So here in my day summary template area, I have a template type of user, which means I created it and I didn't share it. I have a template type of entity, which means I created it in this entity and I shared it. So anybody else who has security to this entity can have security or can run my report and or clone my report and create their own. The template type of Skyward is one that was created by Skyward with my name when I became a secure user. The parameters, a lot of times the data in here is maybe not what you want. So it's okay to take a look at it, maybe clone it and view it, see how they set it up. But for the most part, you'll either be using one that somebody in your entity has already created or creating one of your own. And so those are the different types. So if I were to go ahead and go to my unexcused calling report, and I'm in this particular entity, I'm going to hit edit over here on the right so you guys can see everything in this template. a little bit better. Okay,
Thank you.
so in my example here, so this is my unexcused calling report, meaning unexcused absences that I'm going to be calling home for. So I want a report that tells me who's not here, but I don't know why, basically. So in my report ranges, it's going to be the 2021 school year. I'm selected by date. Today, number of school days, 0, meaning it's going to always run for the current date. I could, of course, hit this radio button and run it for a specific date. But if I go ahead and run it today less number of school days, 0, then it always runs for the current date. And this is one I can schedule to run automatically. So I'm going to select that. Of course, you can set your ranges up. You can look at just certain grade levels, certain schools, what have you, just certain periods. Minimum periods absent. I set this at 1 because I only want to see kids on here if they do have some sort of absence. So I set that at 1. And then if I come in here to my absent types, so everything that's available to me is over here on the left-hand side, and I need to add it over here to the right to my selected side. So in this example here, I'm just wanting to see unexcused. So those are my U's and my W's. So I brought those over, and then I hit save. Method of or parent notified, I'm going to leave it at both. And student status, I'm going to leave it at both, although I could just make it active. Most likely attendance is only on active students, but it could be that somebody was withdrawn yesterday and you would still want them if you were running this for a prior day or something like that. So I just leave it set there. Method of instruction. Now this is a new feature that we have. Just came out this year. In fact, we have more that just came out last week. So in your method of instruction, I have mine checked to all methods of instruction, but if I uncheck this, I can show you what those are. So it might be that the students are set up as a hybrid, are these students in person, remote only, and whatnot. So those are in here. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at all. But if you did want to just run this for your hybrid students, you could, or just your remote students, you could do that as well. So my printing options down here, I want the phone number. I want it even if it's confidential. Here's my guardian information, their work number. Since this is my calling report, I really put a bunch of stuff on here. I do want to know their name. And then down here, you've got some options, all periods, all types, last name, first name, depending on what you want. And then on your report options up here, they have a little line that is on the report itself, and you can make some notes on it. So I went ahead and put that on here as well. So I'm going to say save and print, although I printed one the other day we could go take a look at, but we'll go in and see what this looks like. I'm going to go ahead and open up my print queue. You don't have to wait for that to open. You can just back out and go about your business. But I do want to look at this. So here is my report of everything for this morning. So these particular students, as of today, have web absences where they are unexcused. So I need to call home. So here's my student, here's their grade level, here's the phone number, my little note area, the guardian, and then we have the work number, cell number, same thing, work number, cell number, and then what kind of absence, and then parent notified. The one thing that I noted on here is that even though I asked for all methods of instruction, so all students are on here. If I would have just asked for remote students, only students with a remote method of absence would show up on this report. It doesn't show me anywhere on here what kind of method of instruction they are, but just on my template, I asked for everybody. So just note that. I was actually kind of hoping to come in here and find a little, you know, letter next to it, so what they were, but it doesn't happen to be on there. So maybe Tipsy will or Skyward will add that for us if we request it enough. Okay, so I'm going to back out of here. So that's the calling report. So then the other day summary report that you would run is your all attendance. So You would run that at the end of the day. It gives you a snapshot, a picture of everything for the day. And then I would probably schedule that one to run. I would actually schedule both of these to run, and I'll show you how to do that on the all attendance report. So if I highlight that, now you guys, if you're looking at this same template area, you should not see this because I did not share this because this is just mine. So you can add a brand new one if you're following along, or you can just watch what I'm doing here. So here I have it, it's called all attendance, current day, today less number of school days. I want at least one. I've chosen all methods. Now my absent types, I don't want just unexcused here. I want everything. So everything was over here on the left. I brought it to the right. Brought it over, brought it over, brought it over. I wanted to see everything. And I hit save. And then down here, I didn't really need all of this phone number, parent name, or any of that stuff on this report. So I took it off. I didn't even have my one line. So, but you absolutely can create it any way you want. So then if I say save and print, I'm going to let that open up. And these are opening up automatically because in my preferences, I said open up PDFs upon completion. If I hadn't set that up, I would get a little message that says your report's ready and you can go look at it. So that's why you're seeing these automatically open up. So here's my day summary. It's everything for the day, 31 students and all the attendance that's attached to them. All right, so if that's something I want to schedule to run every day, I'm going to back out of here. You do that from your print queue. So I'm going to come in here to my print queue. I'm going to highlight that report because in order to schedule it to run, you have to create it and run it once. It has to be sitting here in your print queue. Either a utility or a report has to be here in this area. So I'm going to highlight my all attendance, and over on the right, and again, this is security driven, you hit tasks, create a scheduled task of this particular report or utility, and I'm going to set this all up. So it's going to come in as active, day summary, all attendance, but you can change that task description if you want to. It's going to start the day you created it, and the end date is just going to be out there to, forever and a day. I always recommend with a scheduled task, especially for attendance, that you end it at the end of school year because these are entity and year specific. So I'm going to put in the last day of school there in my end date. What time do I want this report to run? Well, I don't want it to run at 2 in the morning. I want this at the end of the day. So I'm going to say maybe 3 o'clock before I go home. I want this to run so I can take a little, oops, what did I do there? PM. There we go. Let's say 3 o'clock or 2:30 or whatever time works for you. What days of the week do you want this? Every day but Saturday and Sunday. I don't mess too much with my months of the week. Months of the year, I don't need this in July. Probably don't really need it in August, but I'm going to just leave that. And then down here in your email results, this is where you'd put in your email address. Oops. And then you put a comma and you'd put in the next person. So if you wanted to go to Tammy.Wolden, and I don't know, longer than that, you know what I'm saying. So you would put in the email addresses in there, and then you would hit save. And then tomorrow or today at 3 o'clock, that is going to start running. And then we could go into our print queue. We're going to get an email. You go into your print queue, and then you can view the report that it's finished running. So the unexcused calling report, that might be where you would set that task up to run at 9:30 in the morning before your 10 o'clock phone calls go out or something like that. So you could go grab that report, make your phone calls before the phone calls go out. Any questions on scheduled tasks? Nope. Okay. The unrecorded class attendance. So this particular report is going to create a report of all the teachers who have not taken attendance. So it's going to tell me that, oh, Mr. Jones hasn't taken attendance yet. You know, you might have to give a call down to his room and say, hey, please take attendance. I need to know who's not here, who is here, whatever. So this report shows you who has not taken attendance. So here I have created a template. I didn't share it because it just says user. I'll show you what this looks like. There's not a whole lot on this template, which is nice. So it can be today less number of school days 0. So it always runs for the current date. So that way you can schedule this to run automatically. So again, I would probably schedule this to run prior to phone messages going out, and then you can, you know, make sure you get a hold of the teachers to take attendance, or maybe they're not there, maybe the sub didn't do it, and you need to take attendance for them. So the report type on here is computer. That's the important thing to remember because that's the teacher takes attendance on the computer. So they would be sitting in your print queue to schedule. I'm going to show you what that looks like. I don't think we have any in here because nobody really took attendance today, right? So I'm going to hit view, or I should say probably has everybody on it. Let me think about that for a minute. I might have said that opposite. It's got everybody on there because nobody took attendance because we really weren't even in. This is just our TLA. So hopefully you don't have this many teachers on here. I hope you just have one or two and it's just one who happened to be absent. So at this point, you'd be like, okay, I don't have their attendance. You'd have to call down and get that. So that's a handy report that most of our districts have set up, and it automatically runs for them so that they can get that message to the teachers to take attendance. The recorded class attendance is just that. It's the opposite of what we just looked at. And that particular report shows us that the teacher did take attendance and what time they took attendance. So where that might come into play, or where you might want to come in and run this, is if you have maybe a teacher who is not taking attendance in a timely manner, you know, day after day, and you need some documentation that kind of shows that, you know, messages are going out to parents because a teacher hasn't gone in and taken their attendance, you know, that kind of thing. So that's a recorded class attendance, and that can be helpful for situations like that. The monthly quarterly report, that's a report by student. So if I come in here, I think I created a template in here to just kind of show you. So this is a report with percentages. And the nice thing about that is a lot of times your administrators or things like that, you know, maybe the board, they want to know the percent of absences. What percent of absences are on this date or on this date? And so you can come in here and create this report to give you some percentages, and that kind of helps with some other documentation that they're doing. So what I wanted to point out on this template, and again, we're not going to go over all these attendance reports today because there's a million different ways to run them. But on this particular report, to change the dates, because it's just going to come into 2021, but let's say you want to just run this for 1 month or for 2 months, you would come in and you would click on the word calendars, and that's where you would go in and change the dates. So if you wanted this to be just for, you know, the month of October or the month of November, whatever, then you would go, you would create those dates and say save. Absent types. Now here you're only going to get excused and unexcused. You don't get the option of others, and you don't get the options of tardies. So I went ahead and made it for everything and brought them all over to the right and back. And then down here, you want just the totals. Sometimes they just want to know totals, you know. Do you want the totals with details? So then you get the student's name and other information. All of those are within ranges. And we get the detail because we selected detail. And then down here is your rate, print percentage, and then you have your percentage or your rate. So percent is what we are running for this one. And I'm actually going to go, I don't know if I'm going to get anything for October. I probably won't. I'm going to go change my dates a little bit, you guys. I actually ran this earlier, but oh, let's see. Let's make it through today. I'm going to put a T. Yay, it worked. Okay. So I just punched in a T and it made it. I know. It's my favorite thing. How about tomorrow? Let's see. R. Oh, look at that tomorrow. Okay. I'll do that. Okay. So then let's save and print. Oh, you can see there was a lot of different options on that particular report that you could look at. So let's go into your print queue. I don't know if that's gonna, I don't know how long that one's gonna take. Here's one that I ran the other day. So I'm gonna highlight that so you guys can view it. So you can kind of see what that looks like. Hopefully I got some data on there. I don't even remember. Oh yeah, I did. 61 pages. Good for me. All right. Get down there. There we go. That's what that looks like. So that's with the details. Oh, here's my other one. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So there's your detail. Gives your percentages. The average daily membership, I forgot to point that out on the template. I think I did select that. And what that refers to is, oh, that's a daily membership. Never mind. Just ignore me for a minute. I was looking at, there's one of these reports that shows the membership, meaning how many days at school. So if you're there all year, you've been there all year, it might be you're at 160 days. But if you didn't start till partway through, then you might just have 80 days. So it's kind of nice to see that on a report. If you see it's kind of a high number, and then they've only been there half a year, then you really got some things you need to look at. So anyway, that's just kind of how you can look at this report. Back out of here. I don't know what, as far as a daily report, as an attendance person, how much that would help you. But as an administrator, they do like to see those kind of reports. Let's see, attendance detail or summary. So that is the template that I would suggest you create at the beginning of the school year that encompasses the entire school year with all sorts of attendance so that you can create and use your quick print with this template. So here I did share that, so anybody in here would be able to see that. I'm going to open that up and come down here so you guys can see everything. Okay, so you have to give your report a name. Again, I suggest you put the year in here so you know you're in the right year. The school year to report on, the low is 2021 and the high is 2021. If you were to put the low of 2020 to the high of 2021, you'd actually be encompassing 2 school years as far as Skyward is concerned, because when they look at attendance reports, they look at the last year, not the first one. So low 2020 would actually be the 1920 school year, and the high 21 would be the 2021 school year. So just know that this is just 1 year when you come in here. And it'll show you that on your dates. And it puts the dates right in there for you. Let's see, so parent notified, I left that at both. I left all my ranges wide open here because I knew I was going to be creating my quick print out of this. So then I go into my absent types. I added everything over and I hit save. And then down here, what kind of information do you want on here? Do you want your daily attendance? Do you want comments? Whatever it is you want on here. You can even sort it a certain way. Oh, here's my membership totals. I knew I put that on one of these reports. So that membership total is telling you how long they've been a member there. So if they've been there all year, it might say 180 or what have you. All right, so I'm going to say save and print. Any questions so far, you guys?
No.
Okay. All right. Could be something super cool that you're missing. I'm just kidding. No, I'm glad. All right. After we take a look at this, and I want to go in and talk a little bit about utilities because I want to talk about them and then also warn you a little bit about utilities because they can do some great things, but you also have to be very cautious when you're using them. So I'll let this run through here and we'll go look at those. Or maybe we'll come back to this. So let's go talk about utilities and then we'll come back to this because it's going to continue to run for a little bit. So I'm going to back out of here. And you know, I set it up in my preferences to open up automatically. So it'll interrupt us when we're ready. So I'm going to go into Office and then under Attendance, the little Setup button and Utilities. So there are quite a few attendance utilities you can run. You can mass add attendance for a single day, mass update for a single day, and you can see delete, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the one thing I really wanted to warn everybody on is the fact that most of these do not have a preview. So once you actually create it and you say run, it's going to go out there and run. It's not going to give you a preview that says, this is what you're deleting, this is what you're changing, are you sure? So I always want to warn, just give you that warning about utilities. I usually almost always recommend you create a new template for whatever the process is you're running because sometimes little things can be in this template that you don't see and it's like, oh man, I did not know I had that set for that or this. So it's not a bad idea just to create a new template. I know it's a little bit more work, but just to kind of it saves headache later when Tammy has to go in and try to figure out how to delete all this that was added. So just know utilities, or it's a good idea to create a new template. So if I was going to, update, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to put that in there. So your student selected. So you can either run this by ranges. So you would hit ranges. You would probably make sure you have this set on active students only. You could run it for certain grade levels and whatnot. You've seen the ranges buttons about a million times today. We're going to save that. Or if there was just individuals. So say, I know some districts before, or if they don't use the activity module, they sometimes will come in here and mass add for a single day by individuals, and they'll go put in all the basketball players. They'll select all those names and put them in here, and then that's who they take attendance for that day. So I think it's a little quicker if you use the activity module and they're already set up, but or if you have a group of students, they're not all in the same activity, but they're all going to need attendance for a single day. You hit individual and go out and search, and I guess I didn't show you that. You can put in the name key or you can hit the student and then start selecting those students that you want in here. Say select. They all end up down in here and you say okay. So now I know I'm just updating for these 4 students. When am I updating? Is it for today, less number school day 0? Is it a specific date? So I know that I think Tammy in particular, she's used this a lot, especially during these COVID times where, the state says we want you to give us attendance that are excused, or we don't want excused, or we want this, or we want that. So a lot of our districts have been changing attendance, and these utilities have come in very handy. But I just always want to warn, give a warning that you don't get a preview. So today, let's say we'll just make it for today, or you could do it for a specific date. Of course, once you hit that radio button, it sensitizes that box for you. Particular periods, you could do that here. And then what are we mass adding? What are we going to put in here? Let's go ahead and put in an excused and excused for the lack of. All right, so set parent notified to yes. Overwrite any existing for this student. Depending on what you're doing, you'll want to either use that or not. And then overwrite a comment if you want to do that. So totally up to you. So once you have it filled out, I know that I'm only going for those 4 students. I didn't even see who they were. I guess we can go look at one. Oh, Kip Bansker. Okay. And then say save and run. So I'm mass adding for a single day. If I was getting a preview, let me exit out of here. If I was going to get a preview, it would say preview, and then it would let me preview it before I processed it, and I'm not getting one. So right now it tells me it went in and it updated for those students. And I don't think it updated for KIP because remember, I already took some attendance for KIP and I said do not overwrite. So whatever KIP had in there before remained, and then it just updated for those 3 students. All right. Any questions on utilities? Again, there's a few in here. There's update for a single day that was adding. You can delete for a certain time. I know that I think Tammy used the mass change for a range utility a lot.
Yep.
Yep, and I think we'll probably be using it again, won't we? Oh my gosh, tell me it's not so. So then you can go and you can say, okay, here's what I have. This is my old one. Here's my new one. So every time the state changes it every 2 weeks on what we need to report, then we come in here and we make changes. Bless their heart. Oh goodness. All right. So I just like again, that's your warning on utilities. And really, unless you're, probably the attendance person for that building, you probably won't even have access to utilities because they can be a little scary. All right, let's go to my print queue and see if my report's done here. My attendance detail or summary, I'm going to hit view. And here, this is 88 pages. So this is everybody. But remember, this template is the one I used for just individual students. So if I am in attendance by student or in student profile attendance, I can run it for just one person. So you can just scroll through. I mean, there's lots of them here, but it gives you all of the details for the date ranges that I had set up for this particular report. Okay. Any questions? We're going to be done a little bit early unless you guys have some questions for me or if there's a attendance report that you've needed before that you wanted to run and you didn't know how to run it. I'm not sure who all I have in this room as far as your job positions. It might be that you just don't know yet. Maybe once you're in there and you're working for a while, then you might have some questions. But
On that attendance detail and summary report, they can make it where page break by student is an option in there if you wanted to run it for the whole school. Probably
if you want
to, but
yeah. So you have your selected sort or page break by student down here. Absolutely. Yeah, and then you could have it page break by student. It might not be that you print it all out. Maybe at the end of the year, this would be a great report to do for your year end and put it in your saved reports. So page break on student, save and print, and then go into your print queue and save that to your attendance folder for the year. That's a great idea. Okay. Any other questions? I know the other one that we use a lot of, and I don't think I built a template, but I'm just thinking about it on the fly here, is the absence occurrence report. Let me get in there. I'm going to add. I'm pretty sure this is the one. Yeah. Okay. So this particular report is kind of nice because you can get your criteria, really whittled down. So it might just be over 5 tardies. So I only want to see students who have more than 5 tardies. So it might be you can come down and start creating your ranges. I'm going to just use active students, but my absent types are going to be tardies. I'm going to add those over. I'm going to select that. And then my reasons. So in case there are anybody put reasons in for the tardies, I'm going to say select all. That way I make sure I encompass everything that somebody may have put in. And then I want to collect that by day. And then my minimum is 5. But as you can see, you can do a maximum. And then you can continue to make more criteria. You could say tardies if they're this reason, or absences if they're this reason. So this report does get used. We could page break this one as well. It does get used quite a bit. So then this is just over 5. I'm going to say save and print. Let's see. Oh, let me scroll down one more. I can see there's another method of instruction available on this report. So that's available, I think, on 3 reports we've seen so far. The method of instruction is there. Again, I wish it would print it on there for us, but baby steps, right?
Yeah.
So save and print. Yeah, I think that would be nice to have something right next to their name that says what is their method of instruction. So, but
It does show up on indicator, so that's nice.
it does, absolutely. Yep, that's great. So then your first page is just your criteria, and the second page is your actual report. But I don't have any kids with over 5 tardies in this training learning area, but that's a good thing. But that's what that's for.
The green bar and the save,
Green.
the green bar.
Yep. Green bar right here, printing green bar, or
And
share.
share.
Yep. And then share is where if I shared it, then on my template screen, I'll save and print that so you can see what green bar looks like. Over on my template screen, remember entity is meant I share it, and if it just says user, that means it's yours alone. And then these ones were all created by Skyward. All right, let me go into my print queue, see if that pops up. We can see what that green, white looks like. Oh yeah, look at that. Ready. So green, white, green, white. If you have a lot of records, that's probably pretty handy to have them on that.
And then convert them to Excel.
Say that one more time.
The convert to Excel.
Perfect. Okay, convert to Excel. So if you're in your print queue, all these reports are coming up as a PDF, and some of them will convert to Excel. Oh my goodness, let's say that 3 times fast. Convert to Excel. So when you have it highlighted, if it will convert, that message, that button will be sensitized. If it won't, and you're on something else, let's see. Oh, do we have anything that won't? So if we have one of these PDFs that actually won't, maybe this one? No. I was trying to see if there was one. So what happens is if any of these reports will not convert to Excel, that button will not be sensitized. So this one is able to convert to Excel. Let's just see how, actually I'm going to show one that's really ugly.
Yeah.
Let's do this one right here. I think is really bad. So I'm going to highlight that and say convert to Excel. So here, and like we said in our preferences, this is what it's set to. So you want to make sure it stays on there. You can do a simple dump or an advanced dump, and it tells you exactly what it is. This simple, it exports the data as it appears on the report. Advanced merges some fields. And honestly, this report, I can't imagine either one's going to be super great, but let's just do a simple one so you guys can see what that looks like. And we'll just wait for that to run. Any questions while we're waiting on that to run? No? Everybody in the room coming back for discipline this afternoon?
Yes.
Okay. So display. So I hit displayed, and it's going to be in my lower left-hand corner. I have to go open it up because I'm in Chrome. Just depends on where you're at. Oh, I must have an Excel open. I'm like, what is that? Okay. And enable. Now, isn't that pretty? Wouldn't you guys just like to take that report and do something with that?
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, try to put a sword on there. So yeah, not everything converts to Excel so pretty. I can tell you that right now.
But some of them really are.
Yep.
Awesome.
Good question, Tammy. All right.
Oh, my brain's like, ooh.
Oh, good. Well, okay. See, now look at this one's already been converted to Excel, so my button's desensitized. That's what I wanted to show you guys is you don't even get that option if you can't convert it. So, okay. Anything else?
Good job, Marnie.
Well, thank
It's been
you.
nice since I have done it a couple days, like with the attendance and stuff with her going through, it's like all coming together now, like it.
I'm sorry, Tammy, was there a question in there? I couldn't quite hear the whole thing.
No, we have a new elementary discipline and attendance secretary that's here, and she's worked in Skyward the last couple of days with the secretary, and it's coming together for her. A lot
Oh,
of
good. Excellent.
wait till she gets to discipline.
No, it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. All right. Well, I'm going to stop this recording and save it to my cloud. Let's see. Do you want to